Hi, everybody. I'm Frank Stanisci, and this is Candid Frank Live, where you'll find us airing our views here on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate, leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google, Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now on Candid Frank Live, joining me is Aaron William Freeland. Aaron, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well, Frank. How are you?
Oh, I'm just peachy keen. Keen and peachy and keen. I'm both, man. I'm all over peachy and keen. I'm telling you, it's just it's happening for me. I'm thrilled. Life is so wonderful. No, I haven't done any crack. Relax.
I don't want. I was going to say it was a humdinger of a weekend.
It was a great weekend, and I gotta tell you, that football game that we went to watch. Well, we can talk about it when it's ready on your script. Instead, we'll start with Mr. Adams Jr. and he returned to lead the Lions, and yes, over the Alouettes.
Putting him in over Nathan Rourke, I think worked out exactly as BC intended. They actually looked like the team from the first 8 weeks of the season. 393 passing yards. He completed 27 of 37 passes, two touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
Absolutely. It was an effort. We just did the CFL show at 4:00. And I'll sum up my opinion on this situation. Here's a situation where the BC Lions had a good quarterback who was on an MOP flight, who was ready to be an MOP. And then the guy that they had 2 years earlier, that was one of the best Canadian quarterbacks maybe in our lifetime, and the way he was playing was that. Comes back, not playing so well. They got Vernon Adams now. Vernon Adams has a chance to recover his position as a starter. BC now has an opportunity here to get this guy going, while the other guy, I think, is still recovering from NFL-itis. I'll call it NFL-itis or NFL failure-itis. And it's really bothered him. It's still on his tongue. He's still talking about the experience, and I think it's not out of his head yet. And he needs to flush that out. So now he's got an opportunity for a second life. And you know what? This victory is something that'll make that happen. And David and I got into a big tangent where now what happens when they end up 2 quarterbacks? Does this guy now, what he does now, does it mean they keep him and get rid of the other guy, or now he raises his value in the offseason so that maybe a team will offer a lot more for him than maybe they would have before this, blah, 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 blah. So, Aaron, this is really interesting. And I'll top it off by saying the game this week that between Hamilton and BC, was it Hamilton and BC, or am I just no? I think I'm mistaken. Not Hamilton, BC. Just hang on. I want to find this because it's important to me. Because I want our viewers to start getting really wound up with this game that's coming up next week. And it's the game between Hamilton and Ottawa, which is going to be really interesting because now Ottawa has something to prove, right? And it's going to be fun. But anyway, so the Ticats offense has erupted against the Stampeders, Aaron. Were you surprised at how well they did?
Quite frankly, I was not expecting that final score. I was not expecting them to have outscored Montreal by 9 times. That was something definitely unexpected. A 27-3 final isn't something you see all that often, but the absolute and utter domination on all aspects of the game by BC was a bit of a surprise because Montreal had been the ones that have been dog walking other teams all season. So to see them get manhandled like that.
And that completes the season for BC. This is the game that they're gonna think about when they go into the playoffs.
No, I mean they're definitely riding a high here. The next game up is the next week off the next week up is their off week. You know, you've got Hamilton in action against Ottawa. You've got Toronto versus Edmonton, Winnipeg versus Montreal, and Calgary versus Saskatchewan. the Toronto Edmonton game is essentially a nothing game. Edmonton's not going into the playoffs. Toronto's already locked up a home game. You know,
The big game to me is Hamilton and Ottawa.
yeah, that is
Because
definitely the game to watch.
that is the big game for a very important reason. We've got Bo Levi Mitchell, who had an incredible 5-touchdown performance, and now Ottawa I maintain that they've got Drew Brown, their quarterback, and Ackland, their receiver, two key components to their offense. They alone, on their very own, aside from some onside kicks that were questionable, carried the Ottawa team into a comeback. Ackland making some key saves, Brown marching his team up and down the field. So Hamilton and Ottawa, that game is going to be really interesting because now you're going to have two quarterbacks that got something to prove and two teams, one that wants to go into the offseason on a high note and the other going into the playoffs the way we just discussed about BC. So it's going to be a big game. That's going to be the game I'm looking forward to. That Friday game, big game of the weekend.
Yeah, that is going to be the place setter for the playoffs in another week and a half.
And because it comes at face value, it's a nothing game, right? But there's an undercurrent of some important stuff going on in that game. It's going to be fun to watch. And then, of course, the Argos. We touched on the fact that they held off the Red Blacks, if you want to call it that. The post game was really interesting with the coach and in the locker room.
So how did Coach Dinwiddie feel about the whole situation, especially with the allowing them almost back into the game?
Well, it boils down to he didn't want to go for the field goal, right? So he wanted to punt instead because he wanted to make sure that they kept them in deep. But the other thing is that he felt that the special team stuff was an anomaly. It wasn't anything really to worry about. It was one of those things, and I tried to get him to say, okay, you're going to throw yourself under the bus for this one, or are you going to talk about the players and what they should have done? He ignored my question, justifiably. I'm okay with him ignoring it, but he did say that he just felt the team was not mentally into the game. I saw Mickey Donovan after the game, and I said to Mickey, Mickey, special teams exhaled a little too soon, right? Because essentially that's what happened. The team exhaled before the game was over, and they really opened the door for the Red Blacks, who earned the comeback. They played incredibly well. They deserved it. Their desire was there, and that's why it makes this Hamilton game against Ottawa so important. This is how they're going to come up against the Argos. The Argos now are up against Edmonton. I think the key question that was asked after the game was, Kelly was asked, so are you going to play the game? I missed 9 games earlier this year. So, of course, he wants to. And that was a question from a friendly Bowen, the guy that works for the Argos. So, that's the other thing that's going to be very interesting is does Kelly play against Edmonton past the first quarter or the first half?
Well, and that's another huge consideration. And again, with the season having gone the way it has for Edmonton and for Calgary, at that particular point in time, the only thing that you're potentially looking to do is maybe play spoiler.
Absolutely.
And whether that's by injuring somebody accidentally on purpose or sort of demoralizing them before they head into the playoffs. That game is as much of a tone center as the game between Hamilton and Ottawa is going to be for Saturday, November 2nd at 3 p.m. back at BMO.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a big deal. All right, so we got the last week of games. There's some interest in those games. You've got a rematch between Winnipeg and Montreal, right? Grey Cup rematch. That game should always inspire some interest. The last game of the season, and both teams hoping to meet again in the Grey Cup, with Winnipeg hoping for a different result. And you've got Calgary and Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan, if they win this game and Winnipeg loses, Saskatchewan can finish first. So you see, those two games have a lot of importance to Winnipeg and Saskatchewan. And Calgary has a lot to prove, a lot to prove. That, this is a proud organization that finds itself in last place. My goodness, Aaron, that's the mighty have fallen. That by definition is the mighty falling.
For sure. And, I don't think anybody predicted a 4-12-1 season. So, whoops. But there you have it.
I think they'll be moving on from their quarterback, and they'll be moving on from their coach. I suspect.
By the end of the day,
the other thing I said was on the show was Mark Killam, who's the special teams and assistant coach of the Calgary Stampeders, will become the head coach, and Dickinson will move up to GM, and that's where they're going to be. It's got to happen now. Calgary's got to make some changes, and it's got to be impactful change.
No, that's definitely something that's going to have to happen. They're not, honestly, I don't believe they're that far away from being successful again. They've just had an absolute tire fire of a season.
Absolutely. The CFL, there's just too many players to pick from. That, it isn't a question of there aren't, they're limited talent. That's not the question with football. But anyway, let's move on to the NBA, and let's talk about the Jontay Porter rule.
So for those of you who have been with the show for a while, we did cover a betting scandal earlier this year where Jontay Porter managed to parlay himself into a lifetime ban at the tender age of 24. Here's the thing. The league has said, in conjunction with their betting affiliates, that they are no longer going to be accepting any prop bets that involve low salary players. And by low salary players, they mean anybody in the $80,000 and down sort of range.
Right.
Those are players that, while they may not necessarily be making the big bucks, are still good enough that they can potentially affect the outcome of a game. And I don't blame the league for doing something like that. It's probably not going to officially be known as the Jontay Porter rule, but we all kind of know.
It's inspired. Let's go to the Formula One and Leclerc.
So Leclerc won the U.S. Grand Prix. There was a late penalty given to Lando Norris after an almost altercation between him and Max Verstappen late in the race. Norris refused to give the place back, but was given a 5-second penalty. And as a result, because he only finished 4.1 seconds ahead of Verstappen, ended up finishing 0.8 seconds behind him, thanks to this penalty. That means that Verstappen still gets to keep pace when it comes to the championship race. I expect there to be more fur to fly in this. It's not over between Lando and Max by a long shot.
Let's go to the National Hockey League. The Habs, Dobson scores in the 9th round of a shootout. Isles edge Habs 4-3.
This was a really thrilling game. Not going to lie. I actually sat through most of it. Noah Dobson actually scored in the 9th round of the shootout to lead the New York Islanders to a 4-3 win over the Habs on Saturday night. Bo Horvat, Kyle Palmieri, and Anders Lee scored in regulation for the Islanders, and Dobson had 2 assists. Semyon Varlamov finished with 21 saves. On the flip side, Cole Caulfield had 2 goals, and Logan Mailloux also scored for Montreal, and Caden Primo made 33 saves. Palmieri and Simon Holmstrom scored for the Islanders in the shootout, and Oliver Cabin and Emil Heinemann tallied for Montreal. This was Logan Mailloux's first goal in the NHL, scored 59 seconds into the second period to tie up the game. The Islanders' 33 shots per game was also ranked 3rd in the NHL, but their average of 2.5 goals per game is actually 27th in the league.
A sensational tight victory over the Lightning for the Sens.
Again, this is a team that's an absolute treat to watch because they're either fire wagon hockey or on fire. I'm not sure which.
As long as they're not a tire fire anymore.
No, they're consistently inconsistent, I think is what it comes down to. They play with an edge, but at the same time, there are occasions when the multi-million-dollar goalie that they signed looks like a sieve. This, of course, doesn't do anything for fans' heart conditions, but at the same time, it's not the end of the world. They're finding that they can rely on Ullmark, and game by game, they're getting better in front.
Absolutely. So the Jets continued their streak with a 6-3 win over the Pens.
One of the great surprises this year, and it's really no surprise to anybody who's followed us, really. Adam Lowry and Mason Appleton had a pair of quick third-period goals to help the Winnipeg Jets defeat the Pittsburgh Penguins 6-3. This extended Winnipeg's franchise record season-opening win streak to 5 games. They're one of the last few teams in the NHL that are actually unbeaten. Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Vladislav Nemestikov, and Nino Niederreiter also had goals for Winnipeg, who are now 5-0-0. Pittsburgh at 3-4-0 has been having some issues, but they're actually hoping. Well, there's a lot of noise right now that Tristan Jarry should never play in Pittsburgh again.
Ooh,
Similar to the Matt Murray case, you can tell when a goalie is no longer wanted. So we'll
wow.
have to see where this goes.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, opinion is harsh.
Let's talk about the Flames and Kraken next.
The Flames' perfect streak finally ended with an overtime loss to the Kraken. Um, this was the Flames' first chance at a 5-0 start to the NHL season. However, Nazem Kadri unfortunately turned the puck over to try to
Uh-oh.
make a move to the middle in his own end, rut row indeed. And Kraken captain Jordan Eberle actually helped in that final one. It's one of those things that you never really like to see, but at the same time, great finish. It's unfortunate that Calgary's streak is over, but at the same
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
here you go. Have a great game.
A great game. Let's go. Oilers. Duchesne scores twice. Oilers continue to lose.
Yeah, the Stars are now 4-0 at home this season. They got a little bit of revenge against the Oilers, who eliminated them in 6 goals in the conference final last season. Duchesne had a power play goal late in the second. They made it 2-0 with the third of the season, 12:06 into the third period. Stuart Skinner wasn't tested much after stopping 72 of 76 Dallas shots in the past 3 games against the Dallas Stars. But yeah, this was one of those things where at just the worst possible times he managed to let goals in.
Canucks Tyler Myers plays his 1,000th game with a 3-0 shutout victory over the Flyers.
Yep. Nils Höglander, Brock Besser, and Kiefer Sherwood provided the offense, while Kevin Lankinen stopped all 26 shots he faced for his first shutout in the Canucks jersey, which is really awesome. This victory was Vancouver's second in as many games and pushed their record on the season to 2-1-2 through 5. Not only did Myers skate in his 1,000th career game, but he may have also had the play of the night. A beautiful no-look between the legs pass to Besser, who scored to make it 2-0.
And how about those Maple Leafs? They lose to the Rangers. Shesterkin gives it to them with a 34 save night. And
Yeah.
you know what? It was a 4-1 score, but it was really only a 2-1 game.
Yeah, it really was. The game was really close. Unfortunately, the way that things turned out for the Leafs, they just ended up on the wrong side of it. So.
Yeah. Well, when I watched the game, it was another one of those situations, Aaron, where the Leafs don't take advantage of their opportunities, and there's something wrong with their power play. It's constantly, we're so sold on how great offensively the Leaf players we have here in Toronto to watch, right? We think they're so talented, but for some reason they can't overcome decent power play defenses. It's amazing.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk too about how the Leafs were getting a large number of shots, which means that they probably should have scored more goals. But
hit a post. There was a post there that would have been very helpful if they had got that goal.
yeah, but a lot of the stuff that was coming from Sudbury, so they were really dialing up long distance.
Pick a story. Pick a news story, Aaron.
Sure. So there was a case that we were following a while back about a public school, in Montreal that had a culture of fear surrounding it. It turns out 11 teachers have been suspended over allegations that they've mistreated students. That investigation has borne fruit very quickly because we only announced it last week. But 11 Montreal teachers are suspended. The union says it hasn't filed any grievances to challenge the suspensions, but also it doesn't have any information for each case against the 11 teachers at Bedford School in the city's Côte-des-Neiges neighborhood. So
that's not very good stuff.
I'm hoping for better outcomes for the students. Sorry, Frank, go ahead.
No. Just gonna say, do another story. You got another minute? 2?
All right, we can do that. So Elon Musk is offering $1 million every day for the next 17 days for a new registrant and signer of the America PAC that he has going in the States. The petition is to support the First and Second Amendments. Everybody does that. Let's be clear here. He has also offered to pay $100 to anybody who signs up another voter. This kind of sounds a little bit illegal. It's like you're trying to buy votes for the Republicans. Elon Musk has been very open about his support for Donald Trump. There is the potential that the Department of Justice will open an investigation into his $1 million a day giveaway.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's getting more and more ridiculous. The situation's getting more and more ridiculous down there, and it really does speak to it's almost like a sports analogy. You know, the political world in the U.S. is playing a lot more like a sports game. By that I mean it doesn't matter what your team does, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to support them.
This is true.
It looks so much like a game. It's not social fabric that we're watching. We're watching the definition. We talk about silos. People talk about silos, but it's definitively that's what it is. It's all about siloing.
So I have one last quick question for you here. Have you heard any about PJ Walker starting for Calgary next weekend or this coming weekend? Okay, might be a little too early in the season, a little too early in the week to hear that sort of thing.
Well, you never know, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Eric, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Okay, glad to be here, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
Absolutely. He's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, airing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao for now. Still thinking you, Mom.